Hi, I'm Catherine Morgan. I'm a career transition expert, business consultant, and the author of This Isn't Working, Evolving the Way We Work to Decrease Stress, Anxiety, and Depression. And today I'm excited to talk to Bob Duncan. Bob is going to tell us about what might be your dream business. You like pets. You thought about starting a dog walking business or dog grooming business or doggy daycare and something related to pets because you love them. Well, we're going to get on the inside and figure out what it's like, a day in the life. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Good. How are you, Catherine?
I'm good. You also have a background in marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about your career?
Sure. My career started in direct marketing many years ago for a large consumer catalog company, and pretty much that was my launching point to stay within the direct marketing space. And later switched over to the business-to-business side for many years in several industries, predominantly in the medical products industry, and then other allied health industries as well. And and then, eventually the direct marketing started to encompass the digital marketing aspect. So it was really a good primer for all of that.
Okay, so how does a marketing expert decide that they want to start a business, a pet related business? Tell us how you thought of that business and how you started.
Sure. Well, somewhere along the lines, in early 2000s, there was a lot of consolidation going on in the industry that I was in. Companies were buying each other, and so things were really consolidating. And the last company that I had worked for was owned by, some investors, and they decided to unload the company after a period of time. And we were told, they were all transparent with it, but they said that, nothing was going to change with having a buyer. And so when the deal was signed, inked, that we were then told the real story was that they were shutting down the headquarters, and there were no more jobs, there was no more company. And around that time, I had hired this kind of newfangled business to take care of my dog while I was commuting. And it was, the company would come and pick up my dog after I had already left to go to work and bring them to an outdoor play space to exercise them with a small group of other dogs. So I had direct, hands-on experience as being a customer of this business. So the day I learned my fate at my job, I got home and had a letter from the guy who had started this doggy daycare business saying that he himself was closing his business and going into something else with a relative of his. So that's, the idea was somewhere planted in my brain, earlier, but somehow it presented that this was the opportunity. So I called the guy up and said, have you thought of selling your business? I might be interested. And so the rest, as they say, is history. We kind of hammered out a deal. I bought the business, I got the vehicle, got the customer contracts. It wasn't just a customer list, it was an ongoing service that was being provided, the space that was being used, the commercial space. And so that was my starting point, and I grew it from there.
Oh, that's sweet. That is a great way to do it because somebody else has already invested in the proof of concept and you had a recurring revenue base. That's really, really smart. So, what was it like to roll out of a corporate marketing position into Bark City?
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely a learning curve. I definitely can't, say that there wasn't, but, there was a short transition period where the owner stayed on and kind of made the introductions to the clients, both the, human ones and the canine ones. And so, it was definitely, trial by fire, as they say. It's, your body sort of, learns to move in certain ways when you're in charge of a bunch of dogs at the same time. And, you kind of, it's that definitely learning by doing. There's only so much, they can tell you about anything. And so just in doing it, you sort of figure out what works best for you. And, I obviously ran it differently than the person who I bought it from. So it was really exciting to kind of have, sort of that big change and then to shape it the way that I wanted to have it to work, the best for me.
Okay. So what I understand, you had the van that you pick up the dogs and brought them to the facility. You have the facility where they exercise and play, and then you went into some other services. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. The facilities, was kind of a little bit looser of an agreement, with some outdoor space that they were using, and it really wasn't adequate, as a, way to build a business on top of that. So my first job was to, besides, acclimating myself to this new reality, was to really seek out an appropriate space that complied with all local, zoning laws and so forth, and that had the space that was, adequate to exercise the dogs outside and inside because there was, in New England, we have a lot of, variable weather.
Right.
So, I got that in place and then added another vehicle. And then the other lines of businesses, I built out a grooming facility and I hired professional groomers to have that as an add-on service.
Did you also add on dog walking and dog walkers for dogs that maybe weren't socialized to come to the facility?
Yes, that was actually part of the business that came along as well.
Okay.
There was dog walking, but to your point, as I was interviewing new clients and new, their dogs weren't necessarily a good fit for these play groups because, if they don't necessarily get along with all types of dogs or, they're not reliable, you want to have a safe space for them to get their exercise and keep all the other dogs safe as well.
Right. Okay. So that sounds super fun. What happened? Let's fast forward a little bit. You got into this business. You were the entrepreneur who built the plane while they were flying it, learned while you were doing it, and then what happened?
So, I experienced steady growth, over a 13-year period just from these, things that I've mentioned and, kind of checked off the boxes in terms of the goals that I had set for myself in the business. And I hired, a number of people and, that was another area that I had to, learn is the whole HR aspect because I was looking at it more from a marketing standpoint and how novel the service was. And as somebody who was a customer, what other customers were looking for. I kind of knew what that felt like to have somebody coming into your house, handling your
Right.
dog, and those kinds of things. So there came to be a time where, continuing to add staff was a challenge, and to find other ways to grow the business was a little challenging. So, I guess I might have gotten a little bit, stir crazy, but wanted, to kind of give myself a new challenge. So I identified another opportunity back in the corporate world. So then I shifted my focus on, how could I, market this business to someone else as a new opportunity for them. And so that's what I later did was I ended up selling half of the business and I kept a portion that was, different than the, original concept.
Great. Sounds like the best of both worlds. You had two revenue streams and you got to use your corporate chops. And, I think, clearly you had the marketing prowess, but I'm guessing marketing a local, geographically constrained um, small business was very different than the marketing challenges you had with your corporate jobs.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was, definitely a learning curve as well. I mean, it's one thing when you're working with somebody else's budget. I mean, not to say that the pressures aren't there, in a different way, but when you're spending your own dollars, you really want to make sure you get that return in order to keep doing it. So there were a number of things that I tried, especially in the digital marketing space early on. There were, media partners that wanted you to, just shell out, a lot of money. And with very little, that top of funnel metrics that they're sharing doesn't pay the bills, for the staff that you have on board. So I had to do a lot of guerrilla tactical kind of marketing things, which was fun, but it was just a very different experience than what I had been doing.
Okay. So what's up for you now? What where are you heading?
Well, that's a good question. I'm, kind of in a research phase. I have this portion of the business, and now I'm considering, some new avenues to to share services with pet owners and things to, enrich the lives of the dogs and the owners that are, having these dogs in their household. So more to come, but there's definitely some ideas that I have rolling around in my head right now.
So if somebody's thinking about starting a pet related business, whether it's grooming or having dog walkers or having a doggy daycare thing, because I think of those, they could be very separate businesses, or they could be services offered under one umbrella. What would you tell them um, that they should consider, or what warning would you give them? How would you say, do this, don't do that?
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind is to really, do your homework. It's things can sound glamorous on the surface. Oh, wouldn't it be fun, to spend the whole day with dogs? Like I love dogs, but you have to consider the other, aspects of the work, the physicality of it. And, the best way to learn is to seek out somebody who's doing something similar to what you're looking to do and spend some time with them. It could be in a non-competitive area. This business tends to be really chopped up geographically. There's a lot of franchise and national companies, but if you're looking to open an independent business, you can go to a neighboring city or town and talk to somebody, and people are really happy to talk about their own businesses. And so I think, you can get a good idea of what a day in the life is like if you spend the time with the folks that do it.
Grass is always greener. I tell people to go walk in somebody's shoes. If you think you want to be a nurse, go shadow a nurse for a day. You may either say, yes, it's for me, or absolutely no way could I do this. So maybe you work in somebody else's doggy daycare for a little while just to see what it's like before you invest your own time and money in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
All right. Well, that was a fascinating story, Bob. I know people are really going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for talking to me about it.
Well, thank you for having me.